Welcome back to the Before AGI podcast. Today we're diving into AI regulation. You know, that whole question of how to encourage innovation without, well, letting things go completely off the rails.
It's definitely a hot topic.
We've got some seriously interesting analyses here. Legal experts giving us their 2025 predictions, some strong opinions from tech CEOs, and the global perspective from think tanks.
Yeah, trying to make sense of it all.
Ready to untangle this AI regulation maze and figure out what really matters.
Let's do it. What I find fascinating right off the bat is that even defining AI is a battleground.
Oh, absolutely.
The EU, Canada, individual US states, it's all over the map. A total nightmare for companies trying to operate on a global scale and stay compliant.
Okay, so imagine this. You're a U.S. security company. You've developed an amazing AI-powered surveillance system.
Cutting-edge stuff.
You're ready to expand into the EU, and bam! Their AI Act slams down a high-risk label on your system.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, you're facing demands for rigorous testing and oversight, standards that might not even exist back in the U.S.
A real global headache.
No kidding. So this lack of a universally agreed-upon definition of AI is a major roadblock. But let's look at some of the big players, starting with the EU. They're really charging ahead with their AI Act, aiming for full enforcement by 2025.
Right, and they've got this risk-based system. Basically, the more potentially harmful the AI, the stricter the rules become.
So it's not about trying to control every single algorithm out there.
No, definitely not.
But rather those that could have a really significant negative impact. Like a self-driving car has to be rigorously tested before it hits the street.
Absolutely, safety first.
And you wouldn't want an AI making life or death medical decisions without a human being involved in that process.
Exactly. High-risk AI, the kind used in critical infrastructure, law enforcement, healthcare that's facing intense scrutiny, risk assessments, constant monitoring, the whole shebang.
Meanwhile, it seems like the U.S. is taking a bit more of a laid-back approach, right? No single federal law, but a whole bunch of different regulations at the state level and agencies trying to figure things out.
It's definitely a patchwork. Over 120 AI bills are floating around Congress at this point.
Wow, so many.
It gives businesses flexibility, but it also creates a lot of uncertainty.
I can imagine.
Like, California is super strict about data privacy, while federal agencies are pushing for easier access to data for AI development. Companies are trying to navigate this minefield of conflicting regulations.
That sounds incredibly messy. So even without a big, overarching federal AI law, U.S. companies can't just ignore what's happening globally, especially with this EU Act coming into play.
Absolutely not. This is especially true for U.S. security companies developing cutting-edge AI. They need to get ahead of the curve.
So what can they actually do right now, given all this uncertainty?
Well, some of our sources, particularly security management, highlight a few key steps.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, they need to rigorously examine their AI's data and algorithms for any potential bias.
Makes sense.
Second, invest heavily in testing and validating their AI models, and I mean both before and after they're deployed.
Thorough testing is key.
And finally, companies need to clearly document their processes. They need to show they're committed to responsible AI development.
That sounds like a huge opportunity, not just to meet regulations, but also to build trust with customers. No one wants to feel like they're at the mercy of some mysterious AI making decisions about their lives.
Transparency is absolutely crucial. The better we understand how these AI systems work, the better we can manage those potential risks. Now, one issue that's really causing a stir is the use of copyrighted material to train AI, especially those large language models everyone's talking about.
Yes, the copyright conundrum. These AI models devour massive amounts of data from the internet, which often includes copyrighted books, art, music, you name it. Artists and publishers are furious, and rightfully so. They feel like their work is being exploited.
It's a clash of titans, protecting those creative rights versus pushing AI advancement forward. Finding a solution isn't easy.
So is anyone taking the lead in finding a middle ground?
Interestingly, the UK is stepping up. They're proposing a copyright exception specifically for AI training. It would allow developers to use copyrighted material under certain conditions, but creators would have a way to opt out if they choose. It'll be very interesting to see if this catches on globally.
It's a bit of a wild west out there, everyone trying to figure out the rules while the game's already in full swing. Speaking of the future, our sources have some 2025 predictions that are pretty eye-opening.
Oh, yeah. Experts are predicting even more state-level AI regulations in the U.S., so that patchwork is only going to get more complex.
Oh, great. More complexity.
And get this. The incoming Trump administration, with its deregulatory stance and close ties to people like Elon Musk, is expected to push back against stricter approaches to AI regulation.
That's going to be interesting to watch.
It could create friction with the EU and just make the global AI landscape even more complicated.
So political dynamics are going to play a huge role in all of this. Any surprise predictions, anything totally unexpected?
Here's a curveball. Some experts are predicting that AI adoption in the legal industry itself will be surprisingly slow.
That's ironic, isn't it? The very people grappling with how to regulate AI are hesitant to embrace it themselves.
It seems that way. They cite concerns about the accuracy and trustworthiness of AI in complex legal matters. It really underscores that even as AI evolves, the human element remains crucial.
It's all about finding the right balance, right?
Yeah.
Using AI to enhance our abilities, not necessarily replace us entirely.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a really critical point, the need for global AI governance. As AI becomes increasingly powerful and interconnected, international cooperation is essential.
That makes a lot of sense, but getting everyone on the same page sounds like a Herculean task.
You're telling me. The challenge is balancing national interests with the need for global standards to tackle shared risks and challenges.
It's almost like herding cats, trying to get all these different countries with their competing interests to agree on anything.
Exactly. But if we fail to cooperate, we risk ending up with a fragmented and potentially dangerous AI landscape.
It's a bit like the old saying, we can either hang together or we'll surely hang separately.
Precisely. The stakes are high, and the need for a coordinated global response is becoming increasingly apparent.
Well, the EU seems to be taking a leading role with their AI Act. Is that something that other countries might adopt as a model?
It's definitely possible. The EU has been a trailblazer in this area. Their AI Act, which is set to be fully enforced in 2025, is being closely watched by policymakers worldwide.
So what are the key features of this AI Act?
It's built on a risk-based approach, categorizing AI systems into 4 levels of risk. High-risk systems face the strictest requirements. Things like risk assessments, data quality standards, transparency obligations, human oversight mechanisms, and cybersecurity measures.
Wow, they're really trying to cover all the bases.
They are. The AI Act also establishes new governance structures: national competent authorities, a European AI board, and an EU database for high-risk AI systems. It's a whole ecosystem to support responsible AI development.
So it's not just a law on paper, but a living, breathing system to help manage AI's impact.
Exactly. They're emphasizing ongoing monitoring and evaluation, too, with provisions for post-market surveillance and incident reporting. It's designed to adapt and evolve as AI technology advances.
That sounds like a comprehensive approach. Are other countries following suit?
While there's no one-size-fits-all solution, we are seeing common themes emerging in global AI regulation discussions.
Like what?
Well, one key theme is the need to balance innovation with ethical considerations. Nobody wants to stifle technological progress.
Of course not.
But ignoring AI's potential risks would be a disaster.
It's a delicate balancing act. Too much regulation could stifle innovation, while too little could lead to unintended consequences.
Exactly. That's why many policymakers are advocating for a risk-based approach to AI regulation.
So instead of trying to regulate all AI systems in the same way, you focus on those that pose the greatest potential for harm.
Precisely. This risk-based approach is gaining traction because it allows for a more targeted and nuanced approach to regulation.
Now, another common theme that's coming up in these global AI regulation discussions is the emphasis on transparency and accountability.
Oh, absolutely. There's this growing recognition that we need to understand how AI systems work and who is responsible for their actions.
Especially as these systems become more complex and autonomous.
Exactly. And this push for transparency is manifesting in a few different ways.
How so?
Well, some regulations require developers to disclose the data sets they're using to train their AI models, while others mandate that companies provide clear explanations of how their AI systems make decisions.
It's about lifting the curtain on the black box of AI.
It's such a great way to put it.
We need to understand how these systems are shaping our world.
Exactly. This transparency is seen as essential for building trust in AI, both among individuals and within society as a whole.
Now, while there's a lot of focus on establishing rules and guidelines, there's also a recognition that AI regulation needs to be an ongoing process.
Oh, for sure. The technology is evolving at a rapid pace, and our approach to regulation needs to keep up.
It's like trying to hit a moving target.
Perfect analogy. It really highlights the need for ongoing dialogue, research, and collaboration to make sure AI regulation stays relevant and effective.
Well, it's clear that the global conversation about AI regulation is just getting started, and as AI continues to advance, this conversation is only going to get more important and more complex.
I completely agree. As we move forward, it's crucial to remember that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It's up to us as a society to shape the future of AI in a way that benefits humanity.
Well said. Now let's narrow our focus a bit and take a closer look at one industry that's being profoundly impacted by AI, the security industry.
Yeah, AI is rapidly transforming the security landscape, with applications ranging from video analytics and facial recognition to threat detection and predictive policing.
And as these AI-powered security systems become more prevalent, they're raising a whole host of legal and ethical questions.
They absolutely are. These questions become especially pressing when we consider the potential for privacy violations.
So how are regulators, policymakers, and industry leaders trying to address these challenges? What are some of the key concerns and potential solutions being discussed?
One of the biggest concerns is the potential for these AI-powered security systems to actually worsen existing inequalities.
Can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Sure. Imagine a facial recognition system that's been trained on a data set that's mostly made up of images of white men.
So the system would be much more likely to accurately identify white men than people of color or women.
Precisely. And that could lead to a situation where people of color are disproportionately misidentified, false arrests, other negative consequences. It's a real problem.
It's almost like baking bias into the system itself.
That's a good way to put it. And this is a major concern, because if we're not careful, AI-powered security systems could make existing social inequalities even worse.
So what are some potential solutions to this? How can we ensure these systems are fair and equitable?
Well, one important solution is to make sure the data sets used to train these systems are diverse and truly representative of the populations they're going to be used on.
So making sure the training data includes images of people of all races, genders, and ages.
Absolutely. And this is something that regulators are starting to pay more attention to.
Another potential solution is to build transparency and accountability right into these systems.
That's right. If we understand how they're making decisions, we're in a much better position to identify and mitigate potential bias.
And that transparency could take many forms, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like requiring companies to disclose the algorithms they're using or giving individuals the right to know why a particular decision was made about them.
Exactly. It's about empowering individuals and communities to hold these systems accountable.
Now, moving beyond just discrimination, another major concern with these AI-powered security systems is the potential for privacy violations.
Absolutely. These systems often collect and analyze vast amounts of personal data. If it's not handled responsibly, that data could be used for purposes beyond what was intended or even fall into the wrong hands.
And this is especially concerning given the rise of technologies like facial recognition, which can be used to track people's movements and activities in real time.
That's right. And this is why privacy advocates are pushing for strong regulations to govern the collection, use, and storage of personal data by AI-powered security systems.
So what might those regulations look like?
Well, some key provisions could include data minimization requirements. Basically, companies should only collect the data that's absolutely necessary for their stated purpose.
And they should have to implement strong security measures to protect that data from unauthorized access.
Exactly. There's also a growing push for something called purpose limitation.
Okay, what does that mean?
Basically, the data should only be used for the specific purpose for which it was collected.
So if a company is using facial recognition to identify shoplifters, they shouldn't also be using that same data to track customers' shopping habits or target them with advertising.
Exactly. It's about respecting people's privacy and ensuring that their data is used responsibly.
Now, another area where AI is making a significant impact on the security industry is law enforcement.
AI is being used for a lot of law enforcement purposes. We're talking predictive policing, crime analysis, suspect identification.
And while those technologies have the potential to improve efficiency and effectiveness, they also raise some really serious legal and ethical questions.
Absolutely. One of the biggest concerns is that AI could be used in ways that violate individuals' rights.
For example,
Well, predictive policing systems, the ones that use algorithms to predict where crimes are likely to occur, have been criticized for leading to over-policing in minority communities.
so instead of reducing crime, these systems could actually be making existing social inequalities even worse.
That's right. This is why many experts are calling for greater transparency and oversight of these systems. We need to make sure they're not being used in ways that discriminate against certain groups.
Another concern is the potential for AI to automate decisions that should really be made by human beings.
Exactly. Like, some law enforcement agencies are starting to use AI to analyze body camera footage and identify potential suspects.
But there's always a risk that those systems could be inaccurate or biased.
Right, and that could lead to wrongful arrests or convictions.
That's a scary thought.
It is, and that's why it's crucial to make sure that human beings remain in the loop. They need to have the final say in these critical decisions.
It's about using AI to augment human intelligence, not replace it entirely.
Precisely. Policymakers and law enforcement agencies really need to keep that in mind as they explore how to use AI in such a sensitive domain.
Now, beyond these specific concerns, there's also a bigger question about AI's role in shaping the future of security.
Oh, absolutely. AI has the potential to fundamentally change how we think about and approach security, both individually and as a society.
And that raises some really profound questions about privacy, surveillance, and the balance of power between citizens and the state.
You said it. As AI-powered security systems become more sophisticated and ubiquitous, we really need to have a serious conversation about the kind of society we want to live in.
It's about making conscious choices about how we use these technologies.
Making sure they're aligned with our values.
Exactly. And that requires a continuous dialogue between policymakers, technologists, ethicists, and everyday citizens.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another sector where AI is having a huge impact: the legal profession itself.
Ah, yes. The legal industry is undergoing a significant transformation as AI-powered tools and services become increasingly sophisticated and accessible.
So how is AI being used in the legal field, and what are some of the potential benefits and challenges of this integration?
Well, AI is being used for a wide range of legal tasks. We're talking legal research, document review, contract analysis, even predicting case outcomes.
So it's about automating some of those more tedious and time-consuming tasks.
Exactly, freeing up lawyers to focus on higher-level, more strategic work.
And that could potentially increase efficiency, reduce costs, and improve access to justice.
Precisely.
But of course, there are challenges and concerns as well.
Of course. One concern is the potential for job displacement as AI systems become capable of doing tasks that were traditionally done by paralegals or even junior lawyers.
So it's that age-old fear of technology replacing human workers.
Right. And while some jobs may be automated, a lot of legal experts argue that AI is more likely to augment human lawyers than replace them entirely.
So it's about lawyers and AI systems working together, each leveraging their strengths.
That's the idea. And that's where the concept of the bionic lawyer comes in.
Okay, so what exactly is a bionic lawyer?
Well, it's essentially a lawyer who seamlessly integrates AI tools into their practice. They use technology to enhance their research, their analysis, their decision-making.
So instead of feeling threatened by AI, these lawyers are embracing it as a way to improve their skills and their efficiency.
Precisely. And a lot of legal experts think this type of human-AI collaboration is the future of the legal profession.
Now, beyond the potential impact on jobs, are there also legal concerns about the use of AI in the legal field?
Definitely. One concern, as we discussed earlier, is the potential for bias in AI systems.
So if a legal AI system is trained on a biased data set, it could produce biased results, which could obviously have some serious consequences.
Exactly. It's crucial to make sure these systems are trained on data sets that are diverse and representative,
Right.
and that they're regularly audited for bias.
Another concern is transparency.
Absolutely. We need to be able to understand how these AI systems are reaching their decisions, particularly in a legal context where the stakes can be so high.
So we need to be able to lift the hood, so to speak, and see how the algorithms are working. We need to be able to make sure they're not leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
Exactly. And this transparency isn't just about fairness, it's also about maintaining public trust in the legal system itself.
Now, another challenge in integrating AI into the legal field is that lawyers need to develop new skills, adapt to this changing technological landscape.
That's right. They need to be comfortable using AI tools, understanding their limitations, and interpreting their results.
So it's not just about knowing the law anymore. It's about knowing how to use technology effectively in a legal context.
Exactly. And this demands a shift in legal education and training.
In what way?
Well, there needs to be more emphasis on data science, technology, and the intersection of law and technology.
So law schools need to start preparing future lawyers for a world where AI is an integral part of their profession.
Absolutely. And to be fair, this is starting to happen. A lot of law schools are offering courses and clinics specifically focused on AI and the law.
Now, while there are certainly challenges in integrating AI into the legal profession, there's also a lot of excitement about the potential benefits.
Oh, for sure. AI has the potential to make the legal system more efficient, more accessible, and more equitable.
And ultimately, that's what it's all about, right? Using technology to improve people's lives.
Well said. Now, beyond those specific applications, we have to remember that AI is also impacting the legal field in a more fundamental way.
Okay, how so?
It's raising new legal questions, questions that we've never had to grapple with before.
Let's unpack that. What are some examples of those new questions that AI is forcing us to confront?
Well, one big one is liability. If an AI system makes a mistake, who's responsible? The developer, the user, the system itself.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's like this legal riddle. Who's actually responsible for the actions of a machine?
Exactly. And it's something that courts and lawmakers are still trying to figure out.
Another question that comes to mind is intellectual property. If an AI system creates something new, like a piece of art or music, who owns the copyright?
That's a great point. We're so used to thinking of intellectual property as being created by human beings. But as these AI systems get more sophisticated, they're starting to create things that are arguably original and creative.
So we need to rethink our traditional notions of authorship and ownership when it comes to AI.
We do, and these are just a couple of examples. AI is really forcing us to reconsider some fundamental legal concepts like agency, intent, and responsibility.
It's exciting and maybe a little bit daunting time to be a lawyer. The very foundations of the legal system are being challenged in all these new and unexpected ways.
I agree. And while these challenges can feel overwhelming, they also present a huge opportunity for the legal profession to evolve and adapt to this changing technological landscape.
And ultimately, that evolution is necessary to ensure that the legal system remains relevant and effective in this age of AI.
Well said. Now, going beyond these specific examples, it's important to remember that AI is also having a more fundamental impact on the legal field. It's raising new legal and ethical questions, questions we've never had to grapple with before.
Okay, let's delve into that a bit. What are some of those new questions that AI is pushing us to confront?
Well, let's go back to that question of liability. If an AI system makes a mistake, who is responsible? Is it the developer, the user? Can you even hold a system itself accountable?
It's a real head-scratcher, trying to figure out who's responsible for the actions of a machine.
It is, and courts and lawmakers are still wrestling with this issue. There's no easy answer.
And what about intellectual property? If an AI system creates something new, say a piece of art or music, who owns the copyright?
That's another big one. We're so used to thinking of intellectual property rights belonging to human creators.
Right, the artist, the musician.
But these AI systems are becoming so advanced that they're starting to create things that are arguably original and creative.
So our traditional ideas about authorship and ownership might need to be rethought.
They might. And honestly, this is just scratching the surface. AI is forcing us to reconsider all these fundamental legal concepts, agency, intent, responsibility. It's fascinating and complex.
It really is. It's such an interesting time to be involved in law because the very foundations of the legal system are being challenged in these new and unexpected ways.
I agree. And while these challenges can feel daunting, they also present an incredible opportunity for the legal profession to evolve, to adapt to this changing technological landscape.
And ultimately, that's essential. The legal system needs to evolve so it can stay relevant and effective in this age of AI.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now let's zoom out a bit and acknowledge that the potential impact of AI extends far beyond just specific industries or sectors.
It's true. AI is a transformative technology. It has the potential to reshape society as we know it.
It really does, and that's why it's so important to have these broader conversations about AI. Conversations that involve not just technologists and policymakers, but also ethicists, social scientists, everyday citizens, everyone.
It's about having this collective discussion about the kind of future we want to create with AI.
Precisely. And one of the most important questions we need to grapple with is, how do we ensure that AI is used in a way that truly benefits all of humanity, not just a select few?
Right. How do we make sure those benefits are distributed fairly and equitably?
Exactly. Well, one crucial area to focus on is education and training. We have to make sure everyone has the opportunity to develop the skills they need to thrive in this AI-powered world that's emerging.
It's about democratizing access to AI education,
Yeah,
making sure it's not just a privilege for the elite, right?
exactly. AI education should be available to everyone, regardless of background or socioeconomic status.
And that means investments in public education, creating affordable training programs, supporting initiatives that promote digital literacy across the board.
It's about leveling the playing field, ensuring everyone has the chance to benefit from this AI revolution, not just a select few.
Beyond education, what other areas should we prioritize to ensure AI benefits everyone?
Job creation, that's a big one. As AI automates certain tasks, we need to create new jobs that leverage those uniquely human skills, creativity, critical thinking.
Right, so it's not just retraining people for existing jobs. It's about creating entirely new categories of work that complement AI.
Exactly. We need to think outside the box. How can AI and human capabilities work together, not just one replacing the other?
Now, a concern that often comes up in these discussions is the potential for AI to be used for malicious purposes.
It's a valid concern. AI is a powerful tool, and any tool can be misused.
So how do we mitigate those risks? The risks of AI being used to develop autonomous weapons or to spread misinformation on a massive scale.
Well, one essential step is establishing clear guidelines for AI development and use.
So like a set of principles that govern how these systems should be designed, how they're deployed, making sure they're used in a way that aligns with our values as a society.
Precisely. And those guidelines could address things like privacy, security, and transparency. It's about setting boundaries, ensuring that AI is used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity.
Those boundaries are crucial.
They are. Beyond guidelines, we also need to develop technical safeguards that actually prevent AI systems from being used for harmful purposes.
So safeguards that would prevent them from being hacked or repurposed for malicious intent.
Exactly. And there's a lot of ongoing research and development in that area.
It's a bit like a technological arms race, isn't it? Trying to stay ahead of those who might misuse AI.
It is, which is why it's so important to have this global conversation about AI safety. We need to make sure these technologies are developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
It feels like we're really just at the beginning of this conversation about AI regulation. What can our listeners do to stay informed, to stay engaged?
There are some fantastic resources out there. The Future of Life Institute, for example, they're doing amazing work on AI safety and governance.
The AI Now Institute's another great one. They're focused on the social and economic impacts of AI.
And of course, there are tons of books, articles, podcasts like this one that can help people learn more.
Speaking of podcasts, be sure to subscribe to the Before AGI podcast for more deep dives into the world of AI. And to explore the more technical side of AI, you should definitely check out your YouTube channel, Ian Ochieng AI.
Thanks for the plug. I try to break down those complex concepts and make them accessible to everyone.
Well, it's been a fascinating deep dive into AI regulation. It's a complex and rapidly evolving landscape, but it's one we need to engage with thoughtfully and proactively. If we can harness the power of AI responsibly, we can create a future that's more just, equitable, and fulfilling for everyone. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of AI.